and welcome to the IDB Lab Forum virtual session on Softlanding, bridging innovation to new frontiers. It is a pleasure to be with you today. I invite all of our participants to engage with us through the chat. Just start telling us where you're from. We'd love to kind of see where people are reaching out from. So start doing that now. And also throughout this conversation, we want you to be a part of the conversation. So feel free to ask questions. If we have time, we'll address those questions live. And also, if not, we can also reach out personally to answer any of the questions that you might have. My name is Julia Lucidi. I am International Softlanding Manager at CIC Miami. The Cambridge Innovation Center was started in 1999 on the MIT campus to support entrepreneurs building fast-growing companies. Today, CIC is the largest builder and manager of innovation companies in the world and home to over 2,000 innovation companies worldwide. My role at the Innovation Center here at the Cambridge Innovation Center is to help international entrepreneurs take their first step into the US market, expediting their adaptation to the market through our 2-week immersive soft landing program. And today, we're going to be looking at the internationalization of companies as an essential aspect to the economic development of the region. This session is going to explore the challenges and opportunities that growing startups face when entering new markets. And key players from the region's most attractive expansion markets, Brazil, Mexico, Spain, United States, and even the IDB, will share their perspectives on soft landing and best practices for entrepreneurs taking innovation beyond borders. So now I'm going to take a moment to invite our guests to share a little bit about who they are. And I'm going to ask our guests, our speakers, to kindly answer one question so that we can hack and break down this kind of complex and new word. What is soft landing in your own words? So Renata, can you kick us off?
Sure. Hi, Julia. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Renata Zanutto. I've been working in innovation and startup ecosystem for more than 10 years and have worked in more than 10 years in big tech corporations. And right now I'm school head. I'm responsible for creating business opportunities between startups and several ecosystem players at the most relevant hub in Latin America. There is Cubo. I'm going to talk more about Cubo later. And just to answer your question, Julia, just to get a quick start, soft landing for me is a controlled launch of startups business into a new market with less costs and risk incurred.
That's great. Thank you so much. Julie, would you like to go next?
Sure, Julia, thank you so much for the invitation. Super excited of having this conversation with you all. Well, my name is Julie Jimenez. I am part of the integration and trade sector. I'm particularly working on all the technology aspects related to Connect Americas and Connect Americas for Women. So I expect that we can cover some of those topics today. For me, Softlanding is to understand better the complexity, the culture, and all the aspects related for a company to internationalize their businesses. So I think that today we have a very excellent panelists and where we expect to cover all these important topics with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Adrian?
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the IDB for the kind invitation. My name is Adrian Blanco. I'm the head of a Latin desk at ISEX, that is part of the Secretary of the State of Commerce of the Government of Spain, and I'm leading different initiatives to support the soft landing of Latin American entrepreneurs and startups in my country. Regarding your question, Julia, for us, soft landing is about facilitation, and facilitation involving 3 different kinds of things. The first one is about supporting foreign startups and entrepreneurs with legal and regulatory issues here in Spain. The second is to support foreign firms, connecting them with the local players, for instance, corporates or VC funds or accelerators. And third, supporting in some more operative issues. For instance, facilitating the access to a visa or helping foreign entrepreneurs who wants to look for local talent here in Spain.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Rogelio?
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Very nice sharing the panel with you, and thanks IDB for the invitation. I'm Rogelio Cuevas, CEO of Central. We're a tech hub in Mexico City. We've been operating already for 8 years, helping startups basically launch their operations in Mexico, and of course, supporting the Mexican startup ecosystem, and of course, the Latin startup ecosystem, because luckily, in very recent years, we've been integrating very, very closely all the different players in the ecosystems. That's really exciting news for the region. And so in terms of the definitions, I don't want to get into a lot of detail because Renata, Julie, Adrian gave really, really great ones. I just want to add that in terms of soft landing, it's a very one-by-one case of like how you start operations in every country. So you have to take it carefully, how you execute it.
Thank you so much, Rogelio. I'm really excited about this panel. Let's kind of make the most out of this and get the most information we can. So I'm going to kind of jump around, but I also want to encourage our panelists, if you want to add, to an answer, or you see kind of an opportunity to give an extra point of view or even challenge a point of view, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to start first with Rogelio. Rogelio, what are the opportunities and challenges to soft landing in Mexico, and what should we expect?
Really good question. Not an easy one to answer. So firstly, as I was saying before, soft landing and basically starting operations in a new country is a strategic decision. So many times, of course, the decision has to be appropriate for the company and it has to be aligned with a long-term strategy. So it's not just like going to a new market and starting operations just like that, because you may be getting into a lot of trouble. In terms of how things are in Mexico, in terms of like starting a new company, it's very important to consider that sometimes there are many things that are moving targets. So sometimes legislation is changing by the minute. So it's really important to start finding out what are like a good roadmap to start those operations. For example, currently, and because of, as I was saying, local regulation, in terms of HR and also in terms of immigration, things are changing very rapidly. So you need to take that into account when deciding to come into Mexico. There are some things, and of course it's a big country, it's a big market. So there are many institutions that can support how you arrive to Mexico. But it's important to figure out a good roadmap, of course, from business intelligence, how you incorporate your company, how you get support for HR, payroll, accounting, and all of those processes that have to be established formally in Mexico. So let's say from a strategic point of view, I think like the best recommendation that we can give is basically from the business that you have, figure out the best roadmap. For example, just to give you an idea, if you're a fintech, you will have to get permissions from the National Bank and Exchange Commission. So that may take a while. So it is really important. That is a different roadmap than an e-commerce, to give you an idea.
That's great. Thank you so much. Before I follow up with another question, I want to just share with you guys, we have some people watching from Argentina, Panama, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic. So we're getting some awesome representation out there. Thank you so much for watching. My next question for you, Rogelio, is what should startups look for to successfully soft land into Mexico, especially when it comes in regards to partnerships and connections to investors?
Yeah, great. Yeah, well, actually, one of the ways that we always suggest coming to Mexico is basically finding someone who can give you some light on what that roadmap could be. IDB actually has partnered with many stakeholders, of course, in the ecosystem in LATAM, and of course also with many stakeholders in the startup ecosystem in Mexico, be them VCs, accelerators, tech hubs like Central, and many other ones. So sometimes to access the local startup ecosystem, it may be as simple as getting in touch with one of these stakeholders, because fortunately, the ecosystem in Mexico is very well connected, and most players, not to say every player, we are like very strong collaborators with each other. So we love to help startups come to Mexico and help them connect with different players. In our particular case, for example, we also work very closely with Google for Startups. So Google for Startups has a very big network in LATAM. So that is also one way through reach, like the network through some other countries, and then they can be redirected to some of the other players in Mexico. So basically, once you start reaching some of us, then we can make the introductions to some of the other players that you may need. So for example, if you're trying to find out a good acceleration program locally, because sometimes they can also help you soft land in Mexico, that's one way. Also, for example, in some of the programs that we run, with Google, and of course also with IDB Lab, we're always super happy to make introductions with local VCs, because we know that startups are now developing the strategies, their funding strategies, to basically target specific countries. So that is also one good way to come. For example, to give you an idea, we are now running a deep tech exchange program with IDB to foster the establishment of joint ventures with Korean startups and LATAM startups to come into Latin America and establish their businesses and their partnerships here. So basically, through that, through different programs, we can help them come and find the best way to arrive into Mexico.
That's great. It makes a world of a difference to have those relationships and programs so that the entrepreneurs aren't lost in the process, right? A lot of times entrepreneurs kind of want to find their way by themselves, but there's this robust community to help them make less mistakes and make those valuable connections that can bridge them into so many opportunities. That's great. Thank you so much.
And to save time and money.
Exactly. That's probably the biggest one. Thank you so much. Renata, my next question is going to be directed to you. I'd love to learn just how is Cubo helping Latin American startups as a partner for international growth in Brazil?
Sure. Cubo is a hub of connection where we create business opportunities between a startup and several ecosystem players. And there we select the startups that are there at the hub, and we put them in contact with other startups, with big companies to generate business, with investors, universities, and also with other strategic partners for the startups. And since 2018, we have a strong partnership with IDB that has a great presence in Latin America in order to add up our strengths to support startups, not only here in Brazil, but especially also in Latin America, to support foreign startups here in Brazil doing this kind of connections too. So last year, we launched together an initiative called Bidal Cubo to develop and accelerate early stage startups in Latin America, and to help those startups also to come to Brazil and to open their markets here in the region. And IDB provides partnership with an accelerator here in Brazil, a kind of workshops, mentoring, and also content. And Cubo, once the program was finished, allowed the participants, the startups that was there, to participate in our selection process and to allow them with our benefits. And for example, we provide this kind of connection, so it is a way to this Latin American startup to have a soft landing here in Brazil, and is a way for us to support all the connections and strategic partnerships that they need to open the markets here in Brazil. So it is really great to be in partnership with IDB so we can add up our strength to support Latin American startups.
That's great. And could you tell me a little bit more, what is the main difference between startups that successfully access a new market and those who attempt, spend money and time, and yet they do so unsuccessfully?
Perfect. Open a new market is like open a new company, because as all you guys mentioned, you need to access a new culture, new language, and in some cases you need to adjust the product until you have the new product market fit for the new market, and it's harder to be by themselves. So On the other hand, if you have a partner in the region, you can accelerate the process and easily access the market. So to answer your question, Julia, in my point of view, the ones that successfully access the new market normally have partners in the market that can support them in terms of connections to help with the culture, with networking and strategic partnerships in the region.
That's great. Thank you so much. Brazilians are so welcoming that I can imagine it's a pretty smooth process.
Yeah.
Adrian, I'd love to ask you the next question. Let's double click into Spain for a minute. Tell us about Spain's market in relation to the soft landing process and the investment opportunities that exist for international startups in the region. And also, which countries have a proven track record in Spain?
Okay, thank you, Julia, for your question. Well, the first idea I would like to highlight is that the Spanish startup ecosystem is booming, is growing exponentially, and the level of maturity that we have now has nothing to do if we compare with 5 or 10 years ago. And this is because there's a lot of players pushing, are strongly involved in the ecosystem. We have a group of founders that have a global vision. They are extremely committed to expand their business globally. We have a lot of the money in the industry nowadays. The investment in Spain exceeded 2 billion in 2020, and the first half of 2021 it has been more than these 2 billion. So we're going to register a record level again this year. Also, we have a lot of corporates. Some of them, or most of them, I would say, they are very, very well known in Latin America. They have a very interesting open innovation programs. They have also some investment vehicles. And also we have the government that is supporting the ecosystem through different initiatives, and in particular, funding both firms and VC funds. So because of all of this, the Spanish startup ecosystem is one of the most interesting in Europe, and in fact is the number one destiny for Latin American startups, because we have all of these advantages, and you have to add that, of course, we have like a common language with most of the countries in the region, and also some cultural ties and historic ties. So in terms of countries, I would say that nowadays Argentina is by far the number one country as far as the entrepreneurs from Latin America coming to Spain. But we have also very, very interesting investment from startups from Brazil and also from Peru and Chile. Just to conclude, I would like also to emphasize that most of these companies are coming for local markets in Spain and for other different advantages, but mostly they are using our country as a gate to have access to the European market.
Do you find that they're spending a good deal of time in Spain, kind of testing their product, refining it before they're going into the rest of the European market?
Exactly. Normally, this is like a two-step process. The first one is to establish in our country, and we provide really a lot of support in different ways through the ISEX Investing in Spain. And then we will have time. I would like to mention some of the initiatives that we are using to support the investment and the expansion of Latin American startups here into Spain. So yes, it's a first process of testing the model and the product in order to go to France, to Italy, to other big markets in Europe.
That's great. What are some of the main changes in the global investment post-2020 in relation to the Latin American and Caribbean region, and what future perspectives to be hopeful about?
Yeah. Well, it's a big question. Well, I will split my response in two different parts. First, as far as inward investment in the ecosystem, what is happening in Latin America is really impressive, because it's well known that year 2020 was a record level in the amount of money coming into the region. And it is particularly interesting because most of this investment is coming from foreign funds, such as Tencent, Axel, SoftBank, and many others. And here we have, again, a very interesting thing, that in spite that the region was the most beaten most beaten region in terms of macroeconomic GDP drop in the year 2020. In spite of that, we have that most of international investors are really betting on the opportunities that the tech ecosystem in different hubs such as Ciudad de Mexico, Sao Paulo, Bogota, and many other places are providing. This is a very interesting issue. So we have this record level in terms of inward, in terms of outward, no? The money coming out of the region. Well, of course, it's lagging behind because the maturity of capital markets and also the maturity of the venture capital industry is not that high. But we have analyzed this phenomenon here at ICES Investing in Spain, and we have found more than $12 billion in cross-border investment by or from VC firms located in Latin American hubs. That is also a very relevant issue. It's not a minor figure, and I think that is a clear also upward trend. For instance, the 2-3 years ago, some VC firms started to operate to invest here in Europe. We have some examples from Mexico with Toro Ventures and Dila Capital and others that are co-investing with the Spanish VCs in the Spanish market.
That's a lot of exciting things happening. I'm going to hop over now to Julie so we can hear a little bit more about her experience with Connect Americas at the IDB. Julie, could you tell us about some of the importance of internationalization for small and medium enterprises, also known as SMEs, and what the bank is doing to help them in this area?
Thank you so much, Julia, for the question. Well, first of all, just to give you a dimension about the representation of SMEs in Latin America, they are the backbone of our economies. They represent the 99% of the companies in the entire region. They generate 61% of formal jobs. So they are definitely the mobilizers of our economies. So the internationalization is a very important to us, a very important topic to us, because we know that internationalization helps companies to grow more productive, more innovative, more competitive. And we have some IDB studies that shows that SMEs pay better wages, they are more productive, they generate more employment, and they are definitely mobilizing the economic recovery of the region. Nevertheless, there are many barriers that SMEs are facing, not only from the internal point of view, but also external bottlenecks that they are, have to address all the time. And this is an effort that the IDB has been, working with the governments and creating different type of initiatives. But I would say that the external bottlenecks are more related to the high costs associated for these companies to transport, logistics, access to certifications. The internal capabilities of the company, of course, they need to be better prepared to plan and to manage risks, to understand the complexities of the culture and the markets they want to export. They also need to strengthen their internal capacities for improving their productivity. And there is a third challenge that it's very important one, and it's the access to finance. Still the new sourcing opportunities for receiving funding or for accessing financial opportunities are not so well known. So it's important also to address this important topic. So to that end, since we have been working with governments, we also created Connect Americas, which is an online online platform for businesses that they can access totally free, where we have put a lot of resources, business opportunities, and other financing options as well. So actually the invitation is for you to join us as well.
That's great. And what a powerful resource and first step for those small, medium enterprises that are wanting to connect with the global market. That's really powerful. And also from the perspective of Connect Americas, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned over the past couple of years regarding the value of interconnectivities for SMEs growth?
Well, the world is experiencing so many and quickly changes in terms of technology that this is transforming the way companies interact with each other, participate in international markets, reach out new customers and new audiences. So we definitely think that digital economy is enabling SMEs to lower the costs of accessing new clients, to reaching new markets, and of course participating in international trade. And I would say that during these years operating Connect Americas, we have several lessons learned, but I will mention just a few. The first one is that companies participating in online platforms can reduce the cost of accessing new potential partners and customers around the globe. A recent study that we conducted within Connect Americas firms, we found that these companies exported 17% more just for improving their online visibility. So that's another important factor. Another one is that the new technologies, the digital payments, the fintech solution spectrum are offering the possibility for these companies also to reduce the costs associated to payments and logistics. So that's another important key lesson. And I would say that since we have been doing these business matchmaking events since 2010, we have also learned that the pandemic brought new opportunities for companies that probably before the pandemic couldn't attend these face-to-face business rounds. So they actually are participating and more engaged in these new opportunities. Just to give you an example, the participation of women entrepreneurs grew from 30% to 42% between 2019 and 2020. So that's something that we are very happy to see, this new engagement of more companies in this type of events. And finally, I would say that there is a growing opportunity also for the companies that are being born global. They already have this, mindset that they need to have access. They need to have the possibility to address international challenges. So this is something that also is a challenge for us on how to create more strategies for these companies that are, with the digital chip in their mindsets.
That's great. Talking about global competitiveness, intellectual property is a really big part of that. So I want to invite Rogelio to answer the next question, which is many startups start to build out their innovation solutions with products and services without carefully considering how intellectual property plays a role in competitiveness. And so what flags would you raise in regards to securing your IP in the soft landing process, which is incredibly important?
Yeah. Thanks, Gila. Yeah, very important question and very important topic. Basically, as I was mentioning earlier, startups will have to go through different processes to get their companies registered and up and running in Mexico. But some of the ones that have like the longest lead times to have them ready is actually intellectual property. So sometimes we've had some cases of startups coming to Mexico. And for example, of course, like many startups, they want to start showing traction to their local investors and that they can start, like doing their business locally. But sometimes they haven't even registered their brands or their products. And that can be, like a really big loophole in the risks that they're taking when landing in Mexico. So for example, to register a brand, that process can probably take about at least 6 months. So it is something, like, for example, if you're one of these startups that is very visible to consumers, then someone can easily just like go ahead and register the brand before you do, which would be, like a huge mistake for you and of course for your investors and shareholders. So yeah, when coming to Mexico, we always tell startups to start going through that process because it may take longer. And sometimes you can even register the brand with a foreign company. You don't need to have already established your Mexico-based legal identity to have that done. But you need to get that sorted as quickly as possible. And again, like sometimes you can find out about like some of the other processes because some of them can take long. But registering a company in Mexico now, it's not ideal like in some Asian markets. but you can still do it, like very quickly. So yes, registering a brand, registering some of the products is key.
That's great. And I think that beyond just thinking about IP or even technical challenges, there's a really big challenge in internationalization and soft landing, which is the cultural differences, which I think people don't realize what a big impact that can cause, especially if they've never moved before. Because if you've moved countries before a couple of times, the adaptation process to cultural understanding can take 6 months to a year. So can you just share a little bit more and elaborate on this challenge and how to fast track that learning curve in Mexico? And I'm sure there's learnings that we can apply to other countries as well.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, when Julie was speaking before and she was mentioning about like all these cultural differences locally, yeah, I wanted to double click on that because that's really important. And then, of course, Adrian would know better, but sometimes the differences are a little bigger between Latin America and Spain. But even within Spain, the differences sometimes can be, like really shocking to see, like how different we are, from the use of words to, sometimes the way we do business. In Mexico in particular, we are very social, as you can imagine. So we Mexicans like very much spending time with our clients, with our partners, because building that rapport is very, very important for Mexicans. Of course, with the pandemic and doing this through a screen, it's not as easy. So we even encourage founders more to spend that time and getting to know their partners or their counterparts in Mexico better, because it takes time. And then sometimes, of course, we think of like the initial start of operations. So, for example, we're thinking maybe lawyers and that kind of counterparts. But then it is also critical to get to know the people when you're actually hiring and building a team in Mexico, building a team locally, because of course, that those cultural gaps are going to be more obvious once you start working on a daily basis with Mexicans. So yeah, we like to share a lot. We like spending time together, and so we always recommend like spending that time, because even though it's an expensive way to build your team, it's critical. But then Mexicans commit very strongly to their startups, to their teams, so it's a good investment.
That's great. Thank you so much. Mexican culture reminds me a lot of Brazilian culture. I actually lived in Mexico when I was younger, and also in Brazil. So it's really, the similarities are really, really strong. So I'm going to hop over to Renata to ask you kind of a tough question. I think a lot of startups are intimidated to go into Brazil because the legislative environment can be quite intimidating. There's quite a bit of red tape. But there's clearly a well-kept secret for a country whose entrepreneurs continue to grow far beyond those challenges. Is it the culture? Is it the work ethic? Is it the economic opportunity? What is it that makes Brazil such fertile grounds for soft landing? You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Okay. Okay. We had many red tapes here in Brazil, but also Brazil has many opportunities because we still have many inefficiencies and problems to be solved, and the startups have the solution to solve those problems. Considering big companies, considering traditional companies, also governments, and also solutions to the B2C side. So Brazil is a huge market also, and so the startups can scale and grow here in Brazil, in Brazilian market. So considering pandemic, in the post-pandemic, we have many opportunity, and we are saying that we have the acceleration of digital transformation in the company. So right now, every company knows how important it is to be close to the startup solutions, to solve many inefficiencies that they have. So considering that Brazil is a huge market and the startups that are here have many possibilities to grow in our market. And also, just to complement, we have many players like Kubo that can provide those kind of access to the foreign startups that wants to open the markets here in Brazil, connecting them with other strategic partnerships and players that can be strategic for the business.
Perfect. Well, now let's talk a little bit about women entrepreneurs. Julie, can you tell us a little bit about what are the key challenges that women-led businesses are facing, and what is the bank doing to support their growth and internationalization?
Thank you, Julia. Well, we firmly believe that investing in women is investing in society. We have a lot of evidence that shows that companies led by women generate 20% more revenue. We know that also women tend to invest their resources in products and services for improving the well-being of their families. So that is it's a virtuous circle that generates also benefits to societies and to their communities. And we also know that companies exporting that are led by women tend to employ more women. So this is also another great benefit for our economies. And from the IDB group, we have been implementing and doing a lot of initiatives and programs for addressing this important agenda in the entire region. We have the Women Growing Together in the Americas program, the We Exchange program led by the IDB Lab, the social gender bonds, and there are so many others. So I just mentioned a few here, but I invite you to go to the IDB website and to understand what is the IDB doing in this regard. But speaking particularly about women growing together in the Americas, last year we decided to run a study with the women registering connectamericas.com. And we found out that there are like three main areas where we need to support them. First of all, digital transformation, as you said, Renata, this is a very important topic. We need to have the possibility to not only access to technology, but also adopt technology for improving the internal process of the company, for knowing how to address new market challenges, on how to reach or to take advantage of all the new e-commerce opportunities. So that's one. The second area of attention is also the access to finance. There are many barriers for women to access to financing opportunities. They need to improve their financial structure. They need technical assistance. So that's another topic. And the third one is, of course, the developing of capabilities inside the company for participating in international trade, in regional and global value chains. There are still it's a very limited participation in regards of their male counterparts. So I think that those are the three main areas of attention, but also the work in which Connect Americas and Women Growing Together in the Americas program is focusing on right now.
That's super powerful, and I'm all about empowering women. I think we all should be and are, and the more women that are prepared to become excellent entrepreneurs will only inspire the next generation to build stronger and better companies. And the truth is, both the female counterpart and the male counterpart, we offer really unique perspectives, and we can only be better if we're both growing and being able to contribute to our economy in our unique ways. So I'm excited to see the wave of impact that that's going to have. And I'm going to hone in on the last question here for Adrian. If we have time, we'll squeeze in a few more, but I think this is a really, really powerful one to kind of wrap up this session on as we look at some of the risks and opportunities. So Adrian, looking forward, what are some of the risks and opportunities of this new economic cycle in a world past 2020?
Okay, Julia, yeah, this is a big question, right? I see at least three risks and three different opportunities. Regarding risk, we have to remember that in the aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis, the rise of public debt in the region is presenting a challenge for the governments, because in the years to come, Latin American governments are going to enter in the fiscal consolidation process, and they can interrupt some of the policies and some of the progress that are supporting ecosystems, okay? So this is the first risk. A second one that is very, very clear is that there's a possibility of changing in the U.S. monetary policy if it is the case. And finally, in 2022, the Federal Reserve rise interest rates, probably we're going to see a lot of money moving out to the region, to the north, to the U.S. Treasury bonds. And it can have a negative impact in the expectations on the regions and in general in the atmosphere for business. And the third risk that I see, that we have a lot of rising in poverty and inequality because of the COVID-19, and of course it can feed the support for populist parties, and all of we know that there's a new important general election and presidential elections in the year 2022. Okay, and this is not a problem for all the countries, but in some of them could be a potential problem. But there's a lot of opportunities as well. First of all, I see a very clear opportunity regarding the climate change. I have seen, for instance, a report from IDB that they calculated a new 50 million jobs that can be created because of the transition to a green economy in the region. So this is simply that the world cannot ignore Latin America in the green transition in the years to come, because there's a more important region in terms of natural resources. The second one, opportunities that we are really covering, the innovation. We don't know yet the scale of that, but for instance, if you have a look to this Tecnolatinas report also by the IDB, there's more than 1,000 firms, technological firms that are scaling up, that are doing things really, really great, and it can help to close the productivity gap and the innovation gap of Latin America compared to other regions. Third, and related to this transformation, I think that not only firms, but also the improvement in digital infrastructure is going to provide access to education, to financial inclusion, and also it can support the closing of the different gaps of Latin America. And in general, I would be optimistic for one reason, because since the interest rates in the whole world, or at least in the most advanced economies, is extremely low, there's a movement of billions of dollars from more conservative assets into the private equity industry. And this thing is going to last. It's going to last 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 1 decade more. And this is why we are seeing all over the world a lot of money that is reaching local startups.
Thank you, Adrian. We hope that this kind of next phase post-COVID will be a much stronger one for growth and opportunity, and seeing kind of these risks and opportunities that exist and preparing for them adequately. We have about 3 minutes left in this panel. I think we've covered a lot of really powerful information. I just want to invite you guys to open up your mics. Is there any last comments that you have for these companies? A comment of inspiration, of hope, of hey, go after it. There's opportunity here. I just invite our speakers to spontaneously leave your last comments.
Yeah, I wanted to also emphasize some of the things that Julie was mentioning about women entrepreneurs from the region. We are currently in collaboration with We Exchange, part of the IDB Lab, and with Google for Startups. We are running an acceleration program for 20 startups from all of Latam and the Caribbean. And we're really, really excited of what we have seen so far. I think the talent that we have in the region is really incredible. The women founders that we're having in the program is just outstanding. And so we encourage all other women that want to start venturing into startups to take the leap, have the courage. That's what it takes. And there's a support structure to help you start and grow your business. So I just want to encourage them to do so.
Bravo.
Well, I think that I just want to thank you, all the organizations, trade promotion organization in the region, chambers of commerce. This is a team effort. We need to work together. And also, we are always inspired by the resilience and the sophistication of the company that they are getting all the time in Latin America, facing so many challenges. So thank you to all of you, and also an invitation for joining us in connectamericas.com and Connect Americas for Women. We are happy to interact with you over there.
Thank you all, and for the startups that are listening to the conference, please come on Cubo and also with IDB Lab. and to support you to go abroad, to open the markets here in Brazil. As I mentioned, we have many opportunities here. So it is time to come to Brazil and to open the markets here.
And just my last minute, just to say that we concentrate our effort into attracting foreign entrepreneurs from the region through our program Rising Up in Spain. And please stay tuned because we're going to have a next call on next January. Okay.
Thank you so much. I think we finished right on time.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Thank you,
Bye.
Julia.
My pleasure.